Chapter 3 Basics of Electricity, Part 2. 1 kilowatt is equal to how many watts? 1,000 watts. What flows around a conductor? A magnetic field, electric current, and electrons. What electrical law is most used in troubleshooting? Ohm's law. What is the right-hand motor rule? When the index finger of the right hand is pointed in the direction of the magnetic field and the second finger in the direction of current flow, the thumb indicates the direction the current carrying wires move. What is Kirchhoff's voltage law? It states that the algebraic sum of all voltages around a closed path or loop is zero. You could also say the sum of all voltage drops equals the total source voltage. What is the difference between the conventional current flow theory and electron flow theory? Conventional current flow theory is a visualization of current as flowing from positive to negative. In actual practice, electrons in a circuit flow from negative to positive, which is electron flow theory. What is an inverter? An inverter changes electricity from DC power to AC power. Describe a capacitor. Two plates with a dielectric in the middle. What component changes electrical energy of a given voltage into electrical energy at a different voltage level, or steps energy up or down? Transformers. What are two materials that conductors are made of? Aluminum and copper. What is the difference between an OR logic gate and an AND logic gate? An OR logic gate needs one input or the other input to have an output. The AND logic gate needs one input and the other input to have an output. Name two types of resistors. Variable and fixed. How do you identify wire types? By lettering on the insulation. How many wires may be installed in a single terminal lug? 4. What prevents reverse current flow in a DC alternator? A reverse current cutout. What is an SLA battery? Sealed lead acid battery. What is an LED? Light emitting diode. What is the result of an imbalanced cell in a nickel cadmium battery? When a cell has low internal resistance, the current will increase across the cell, causing it to heat up. Describe a no trip or trip free circuit breaker. A trip free breaker makes it impossible to manually hold the circuit closed when excessive current is flowing. It pops when the circuit gets hot and can't be reset until it has cooled off. What are paralleling generators and how is the load distributed? This is when two or more generators are operated at the same time to supply power for a load that must be shared equally. What is electromagnetic induction? It is the transfer of electrical energy by means of a magnetic field or lines of flux, transferring voltage from one conductor to another without physically touching. This is the principle of transformer operation. What is the effect of temperature on specific gravity of the electrolyte when checking a lead acid battery? Battery temperature changes electrolyte density only when greater than 90 degrees Fahrenheit or less than 70 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the most frequent cause of damage to solid state components and integrated circuits? Electrostatic discharge, or ESD, from the human body due to careless handling. What is the concept that describes the relationship between electricity and magnetism? Electromagnetism. What is the difference between permanent and temporary magnets? When an external magnetizing force is removed, permanent magnets retain their magnetism for an extended time. Temporary magnets quickly lose most of their magnetism. What is magnetism? The property of an object to attract certain metallic substances. What is the common name for the lines of force that make up a field surrounding a magnet? Magnetic flux lines. What is the general purpose of a resistor? To limit current. What causes opposition to the flow of current in an AC circuit? Inductive and capacitive reactance. What is an example of an inductor in a magneto? The coil. What is the definition of a short circuit? An unintentionally low resistance path between a component, the conductor, and ground. What is the basic component that only allows current to flow in one direction? A diode. Think of it like a check valve. What is the standard unit of measure for frequency? Hertz. What does a basic DC electrical circuit consist of? A source, such as a battery, resistance or load, such as a light bulb, and conductors, such as wires. What are the elements of Ohm's law? Voltage, E, current, I, and resistance, R. What is considered the basic building block of all matter? The atom. How many ohms are in a megohm? 1,000,000. What is meant by electromagnetic induction? The transfer of electrical energy from one conductor to another that is not electrically connected. What is used to neutralize spilled electrolyte from a nickel cadmium battery? A solution of boric acid and water. How high should the electrolyte level be in a properly serviced lead acid battery? Only up to the level of the indicator in the cell. What is used to neutralize spilled electrolyte from a lead acid battery? A bicarbonate solution of soda and water. How is a lead acid battery compartment treated to protect it from corrosion? Paint it with an asphaltic or tar based paint or with polyurethane enamel. How can you find the polarity of an electromagnet? Hold the electromagnet in your left hand with your fingers encircling the coil in the direction the electrons flow. Your thumb will point to the north end. What is meant by impedance? The total opposition to the flow of alternating current. It is the vector sum of resistance, capacitive reactance, and inductive reactance. What is the basic unit of resistance? Also, how impedance is measured. The ohm. What is the basic unit of voltage? The volt. What is the basic unit of current? The ampere or amp. Given the inductance and the frequency of the AC in a circuit, how do you compute the inductive reactance caused by the coil? XL equals 2 times pi times F times L, where XL is inductive reactance in ohms, F is frequency in cycles per second, and L is inductance. Does a capacitor in an AC circuit cause the current to lead or lag the voltage? It causes the current to lead the voltage. Does an inductor in an AC circuit cause the current to lead or lag the voltage? It causes the current to lag behind the voltage. What is the formula for determining power? Pi, or P equals I times E, where P is power, I is current, and E equals volts. What is Faraday's law? Faraday's law, or the law of electromagnetic induction, states that the induced EMF, or electromagnetic force, in a closed loop of wire is proportional to the rate of change of the magnetic flux through a coil of wire. What is Lenz's law? Lenz's law states that the EMF induced in an electric circuit always acts in such a direction that the current it drives around a closed circuit produces a magnetic field, which opposes the change in magnetic flux. What is voltage? Electrical pressure. What instrument is used to measure voltage? A voltmeter. How is output voltage regulated in an AC alternator? Voltage regulation is accomplished by varying the strength of the AC exciter fields, or field voltage. How is resistance calculated in a series circuit? For resistors in a series configuration, the total resistance of the circuit is equal to the sum of the individual resistors. What is the formula for power in a DC circuit? Power equals voltage times current, or P equals E times I. You can also use the pi formula. What is meant by true power in an AC circuit? The product of the circuit voltage and the current that is in phase with this voltage. What is meant by apparent power in an AC circuit? The product of the circuit voltage and the circuit current, without reference to phase angle. What are binary numbers? The binary number system has only two digits, 0 and 1. It is also known as a base 2 numbering system. What type of drawing depicts electrical components with respect to each other within a circuit? An electrical schematic. What are the two general types of AC motors used in aircraft systems? Induction motors and synchronous motors. What is the formula used to cut? What is the formula used to determine the speed of an AC motor? RPM equals 120 times frequency divided by the number of poles. In what types of applications is a series wound DC motor most often used? Applications that require high torque and low speed, such as a starter motor. What are the two principal parts of a DC motor? The field assembly and the armature assembly. Now we're moving into our risk management portion. When a volt/ohm multimeter is set to measure current, what precautions should be taken? Never place the multimeter leads across a voltage drop, as this can damage the meter. What precautions should be taken in the maintenance shop where both lead acid and nickel cadmium batteries are serviced? The two types of batteries should be kept separate, and the tools used on one type should not be used on the other. What precautions should be taken when working on a high voltage strobe light circuit? Disconnect the power from the strobe power supply and let it stand for 5 to 10 minutes to allow the capacitors to bleed off. What are some precautions that should be taken when working around an aircraft battery installed in an aircraft? One, when disconnecting a battery, always disconnect the negative terminal first. Two, when installing a battery, always connect the negative terminal last. Three, when the battery is installed, care should be taken to never allow tools or equipment to short the positive terminal to ground.